Hi there, welcome back to MTurk Guide. Today we're going to talk about terms of service violations and therefore what hits to avoid. So terms of service essentially are when workers and requesters sign up, they agree to certain terms of service that differ depending on the role. So for workers it's one thing, requesters it's another, and the two shall meet, but there are some significant differences. Anytime you sign up for any website, you are essentially either, whether you know it or not, you're agreeing to the terms of service either by saying you agree to it or passively through the use of the website. But when you signed up for MTurk, you actually did actively agree to the terms of service. The point here is that I just want to identify this for you so that you know which hits are against MTurk's policy and therefore you should avoid them. And the reason why is that typically if folks, requesters specifically, are going against the term of service, maybe they don't know, but if they do know and they're just doing it anyways, there's a good chance that they kind of perhaps won't be as honest in their payments and their approval. So it's a fine line. I'm not saying that everybody who breaks the terms of service is a bad requester, but the potential is there. And if you're a new Turker, that's not a risk you want to take. If you're a little further up in your turking and that's a risk you want to take, then so be it. But be educated about that risk, right? You don't want to go in uneducated about it. So I'm here to help you make educated risks. So with the help of this tutorial, you'll be able to identify these violations when you see them. And frankly, they're not always obvious. I think some folks have probably by now looked at my requester spotlight about Job Genie, and I have a background in internet marketing, so I was aware of paid ads and things of that nature, but the average web surfer probably isn't. And so I'm hoping that I can impart some knowledge without going into too much detail about the things you should look out for. And hopefully that will bring you up from the kind of the casual user more into a highly educated user. So here we go. When you do identify or suspect a hit violates the terms of service, there's a few things you should do in response to it. If possible, don't do the hit. As I discussed before, I think it's a fine line. There's certainly a risk there. Not always the case, but sometimes. And I do realize sometimes you're too far in to the hit and you kind of have to weigh the time wasted against the reward and all of that. And what you realize the term of service violation is, how bad it is, how severe it is, and how comfortable you feel completing the hit. So that's all stuff that you're going to have to decide in the moment. But things that you definitely should do is leave a review on Turkopticon and mark it as a terms of service violation. In that case, you want to be pretty sure that it is what you think it is. If you're not sure, you can go in and you can, instead of marking it in the checkbox, which I've put down here, little screenshots, and I know they're a little hard to see, but in TO there's a checkbox that says that it's a terms of service violation. If you're not sure whether it is or it isn't, you can go ahead and write that in the description. You could say, I was partway through this hit and I saw something that I thought might be a term of service violation. Go on to describe what you think it is. Say, I'm not sure, so I'm not going to mark it as such unless I get feedback that it is, in fact, a term of service violation. And usually people are good about replying on TO and they'll tell you whether it is or it isn't, and then you can update accordingly. And if you are absolutely sure it's a terms of service violation, or if you're pretty close, you're 90% sure, you can go ahead and report it to MTurk as such. And at the bottom of all the hits you're doing, there will be an option to report the hit, and that one's down in the right-hand corner here. You can report the hit, and there's two different drop downs. One is for policy violation and then broken hits, and then the next drop down that shows up has all different categories, and then you can put some comments in up to 200 characters, and then you can hit submit. I'll be completely transparent about communicating with MTurk in general. You don't usually hear back from them. And that's why I suggest kind of this multi-layered approach to sort of alerting the community about these type of hits, because MTurk isn't always so good about getting these hits removed. They do sometimes, but sometimes they don't. And I'm sure there's reasons behind it. I'm sure some of it might be automated and some of it's manual and whatnot. But that's where we really rely on the community and TO to, keep everybody informed as to what's going on. So that's why I suggest that you definitely use those two avenues. I will say, if you have to choose, if you're short on time or it's just not something you want to spend too much time doing, and I understand that because it does take up some time, if you have to choose, leave it on TO. More people are going to see that. And frankly, I actually think that the justice is swifter because the more workers that see it and stop doing the hits, the harder it becomes for the requesters to get their work done. And eventually I think it peters out and they give up, or they switch their name and we figure it out and then we post it and around we go. So things that are terms of service violations, and this language is directly from the terms of service agreement. What I'm going to try to do is then translate it into English, and then some examples that you'll, when I say English, I mean versus legalese, English, and then some examples that may resonate with you or not. Hopefully they do, though. So collecting personal information or unsolicited contact of users. So we've discussed this in other webcasts, but if they want your email address or they want your home address, social security numbers, obviously always a no. Those are the types of things, identifying information that they cannot collect. Now, there are some exceptions. The personal information, if they're asking for your email address to contact you for future hits or future opportunities or surveys, I generally do give my email address for those. You don't have to. And usually they won't require you to do so to complete the hit. But, if you want some of those opportunities, I would say give your email address. If you're really uncomfortable with that, as I've suggested in the past, just set up a TURK email address. And that's something that you can check periodically, or you could forward to your primary address. But I would say it's something that, that does open up doors. Now, there is also, in surveys, a lot of times they'll ask for like your zip code, or they'll ask for your age. Now, these pieces of information alone are not personally identifying, right? They can't, pull together, your zip code and your hair color or your zip code and your gender and find out where you live, right? So that's the question, is can they put this information together and kind of pinpoint me as the needle in a haystack? And if the answer is no, then you're good to go. So if they ask for your home address, obviously that's truly identifying information, and that's a no. That's really, I can say probably the only time I've heard of that is when there's been studies about where they've sent something. I think there was a study floating around once that had some sort of DNA aspect to it. And so, yeah, and it was like a university, like Yale or something. And people were giving out their address to get the DNA kit, to do the thing, and and there was some other benefits in it for them. So certainly, you got to assess it as always. Look at the requester. Is it valid? If you look at the informed consent in a survey and it says it's Yale University, and the all the IRB information and everything are yale.edu email addresses, then yeah, I think you're okay. The other thing you can check in the informed consent is what their record retention policy is in terms of how long are they going to keep the data on you, how are they going to secure it. If they don't mention that in the informed consent, you can email them and ask them. There are a lot of ways you can get that information. So there's definitely, if you're truly hot on a hit and you want to do it, and you want to feel more comfortable about it, those are some avenues you can take. Fraud, that's kind of a loose term. You kind of know it when you see it, but and then sometimes you might not. So I'm not going to go too far into that one, but I do have some examples. Disrupting operation of a website. So you could see where somebody might try to send a lot of users to a site that can't handle it, or some sort of malicious activity, that type of thing. You just got to question, like, what is when something strikes you as odd, then you got to kind of sit back and wonder, what is the meaning of this? And if you can't come up with a legitimate reason, you might want to step back. And you can always leave a comment for me on YouTube or on the Facebook page, on the YouTube channel, and just ask me and I'll research it for you, no problem. Direct marketing and spamming. I'll give you some examples of that. Impermissible advertising or marketing. I think that's, when they're trying to sell you something, essentially. They shouldn't be sold things as part of this. Infringing rights of a third party. This one I don't think comes up as often. I think for the most part, the rights of the person who's been infringed usually brings that up, not necessarily the workers, but it is there. So I wanted to make you aware of it. Posting illegal or questionable content. Again, I think that for the most part, the adult qualification handles anything that's pornographic or offensive. And so, anything that's even not in that category, that's bad for that category, that might fall into this category. But there are some gray lines here, no doubt. So I'm certainly not the authority on this, but the next one is disrupting operation of MTurk website, obviously, right? You don't want to be doing anything that would hurt the platform you're using to make money, or creating a security risk for MTurk or users. So I'll show you an example of this in the next slide. So some examples. Now let's dive into the real life stuff. Hits that require, underline, the disclosure of personal information to complete the hit. Again, you want those two pieces together. They require you to give it in order to complete the hit. If you can bypass that information and it's optional, then you're okay. So when you see it, don't panic. Make sure you look exactly what they're asking for and whether that's a required field or not. And I put the asterisk there because, as I said, remember, can they identify you through the information you're giving them? And is there a legitimate reason for them to give that, for you to be giving that information if they do in fact need it? Like the example I gave with the study with the DNA. Obviously, they need to send you something to do it, so you're going to need your address. That makes sense to me. And you can obviously do your follow-on due diligence to make sure that it's legit. The next one, requiring a worker to sign up with information at a website. Again, they may tell you to go to a website and they can tell you to put in user 1 and password 123 to log on and do something. They can give you dummy information to log on, but they can't require you to log on with valid information using your email address or anything like that. But they can't give you that dummy information to do so. So if you hit a website, it's not automatically a TOS violation. You need to determine whether you can put dummy information in. And I've come across that a lot. A lot of times they're asking you to test stuff or whatever. They give you dummy information, or they tell you can kind of bypass a login somehow or whatever. So definitely look twice at those. Directly or indirectly promote a site, service, or opinion. I haven't run into too many of these, but and it can be a gray area again when a company may be looking for survey data. But here in the election time, if you're doing a survey that seems to be pushing way too hard for a particular candidate or something and doesn't really seem to have a purpose, something like that would probably fall in this category. I'll probably enter the opinion piece. So again, you may run into this, you may not. I honestly haven't run into this a lot, but all right. Violates the terms of service for the landing site. So what this means is they have you clicking through to another website, and that website has a separate terms of service, and they're asking you to violate that somehow. Again, the string, that's quite the string, right? But the example that I gave the other day, although it doesn't exactly fit this one, but where, somebody has us clicking through and clicking on ads so they get paid for those ads, that's a violation of the terms of service of Google's terms of service, and Google is delivering the ads on that web page. So, I think that's one prong of the 2 or 3 pronged issue with that example. So, but I'm not going to say to you that if you land on another website to go looking through their terms of service to figure out whether what you're doing is, again, think about what you're doing. Does it pass the sniff test? If you're suspicious, then do a little more digging or return the hit. But, again, if it's blatantly obvious to you, then this is something I would back out of. adult content without the adult content qualification. So if you're, looking at pictures or you're sorting pictures, let's say, here's an example that I ran into the other day, and it didn't really bother me, so I didn't really do anything about it, and it was a one-off. But runners with bibs, a lot of photographers have you typing in bib numbers of runners in these mud runs and 5Ks and all this stuff. Great. Well, I've literally done hundreds upon hundreds, maybe even thousands of these. And the other day I ran into a situation where there was a picture of two guys in like Speedos, at the end of their run, which is great. I can imagine that that would offend some people. It showed a lot of skin, and these guys were not in the best of shape. But for me, it was like a haha moment. But as I'm sitting here thinking about it, somebody who would be offended by that, not wanting to see a scantily clad man, might feel that that should have had an adult content qualification, and therefore, that could loosely be a terms of service violation. That's the example. It's one kind of sneaking through what shouldn't need an adult content qualification, but it does happen. But if somebody's consistently doing it, like if you're doing hits and you're consistently seeing things you shouldn't be seeing, and again, the sniff test, like if my kids or your kids were to lean over your shoulder and look at what you're doing, would, without the adult content qualification, it should be all good. So that's, again, you set your yardstick and then measure to it, but that's mine. I'm okay with men in Speedos. That's not a proposition for anybody out there listening, but I am pretty open-minded when it comes to people taking photos, especially at 5Ks and mud runs. Anyways, to not get too far off track, okay, asking workers to solicit third parties. If they've got you sending emails, trying to get you to do something or sell something, that's a no. Generate referred site traffic or click-through visits. This one can be a little, again, you might need that marketing background. They're trying to get you to click through and maybe vote for something, as an example, like, hey, my kid's cute and they want them to win this contest. We'll pay you 25 cents to vote for them. That's a no-no. And that's a fine line. Somebody may put up a hit and say, look at the usability of this website, and they pay you a quarter. Like, did you see any broken links or whatever? They could honestly be asking about the usability of that website, or they could be just driving up their traffic. You don't really know. So again, you've got to use your judgment on something like that. But if it's blatantly obvious, then report it or put it on TO or whatever, or just don't do it at a minimum. Asking workers to manipulate a website behavior or results. Again, that would be a voting example. When you think about, like, if somebody's got 700 posted, what is the end result of 700 people doing exactly what you're doing, right? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Violating intellectual property rights of another party. Again, typically the party that's been infringed upon would notify MTurk, and then they'd handle it. But if you saw something that was blatant, then that's something you could report to MTurk. This one is important. It's asterisk again. Requiring download of software containing viruses, harmful code, etc. You're going to come across some hits that require you to download something called Inquisit. Inquisit is a valid download survey tool. I personally do not like it. I don't do hits with Inquisit. I work off of a Chromebook a lot of the time, and you can't use Inquisit with a Chromebook, but I also have a laptop, a PC, a Windows PC, that I can use. But Inquisit just always bunches up for me. It's awful. I don't like it. I know a lot of people in the community share that sentiment, but it's not one of what they're talking about here: viruses, harmful code, etc. So there are some survey tools that you will be asked to use. If you come across ones that aren't Inquisit, like Qualtrics, however you pronounce it, is the survey site, or Survey Monkey, those are all fine. You're good to go. Inquisit, you're good to go. But if you run across something and you're worried about it, certainly, besides having your antivirus up and running at all times, certainly come and ask me and I can research it for you. But the third-party downloads, again, now if it's a third-party download, it requires you to log in with your real information. That's like a double ding, right? It's real information plus a download. If you don't go in with your real information, you'll never know if it's harmful or not. So you can assume that maybe it is. So those are your examples. So here's an example of one that just popped up tonight, actually, as I was preparing this. So this one's pretty obvious in my mind. You've got the requester is Ebony. And when I looked at her TO data, TO data, it was, I think it was a one gray one. And I've told you in other webcasts that gray can represent opportunity, meaning there's not enough data. And if you can tolerate the risk, and you look at what's there and it looks like it could be a good thing, you could go for it. But in this case, it was a one rating with gray data, and it was not favorable TO reviews. But I already knew that going in, that this was something I would not do. And here's why. So the title, Want Call of Duty Black Ops 3. I don't, but whatever. So here's the instructions, which, by the way, you had to click to expand them. And when you first clicked in, they were collapsed. And so if somebody's not looking or not accustomed to that, they may go right for the survey link. So it says, we are conducting an academic survey about video games. Are you really now, Ebony? Okay, we need to understand your opinion about such video games. Yeah. Okay, sure. Get COD Black Ops now with a prepaid Visa gift card. Exclamation point. Sign up to win now. So now we've gone from a survey about our opinions on video games to getting Black Ops 3 with a prepaid Visa gift card, but you actually have to sign up to win it. So you're not actually going to get it. Now you can see where this is all falling apart, right? Select the link below to complete the sign up. At the end, you'll receive a code to paste into the box below to receive credit for taking our survey. So we're back to the survey thing, which frankly, it don't exist. Make sure to leave this window open as you complete your sign up. When you're finished, you will return to this page to paste the code into the box. Okay, so clearly this requester understands how MTurk works at a fundamental level. They understand the whole survey code thing and all of that. They even are nice enough to put, if none provided, type NA. And that's interesting. And I'll get back to that. But so anyways, when you take that survey link and first of all, it's not clickable. And I'm not going to say that not clickable is always a red flag, but if your antenna is already up like mine was with this one, it's not clickable for a reason. And the reason is that this is an affiliate link. Okay. And so if you were to able to click directly through, when it directs over to the affiliate link to the company that's running this promotion, they'll be able to see that it's coming from MTurk. And that should be a red flag for the company running the promotion, because what other reason would it be coming from MTurk? No other reason except somebody's paying somebody to do this, which is not the spirit of affiliate marketing. The spirit of affiliate marketing is I advertise something to you. You are interested in it because I've sought you out as part of my target market. And I say, oh, you're interested in this, my target market. Here's an opportunity. And then part of my target market says, yeah, this is great. I'm going to go check it out and sign up or whatever. That's the spirit of affiliate marketing, not I'm going to pay you to go click on my links. That's totally against what the spirit of it is. So that's the reason why the link is that way. Now, again, don't always look at non-clickable links and think that, but just remember that when your suspicions start to raise a little bit, if you're already halfway there and then you see an unclickable link, you're going to think, that's, another data point, right? So anyways, so what I did was I copied it and I opened up another window and I pasted it, and this is what comes up. So it's the sharerewards.com, need Call of Duty Black Ops 3, get it with a prepaid Visa gift card, which, this whole promotion in my mind, it's so confusing. Like, why? You don't want to give me the video game? I need to have a gift card. I don't know, whatever. Either way. So you're going to enter your email address and you're going to hit submit. And I'm not doing that. I didn't do it because the person who put this hit up is going to get paid the minute I put my email address in. That's for sure. They're going to get some sort of compensation, probably $1, and they're paying you 10 cents plus whatever MTurk's fees are. So they're probably making 50 or 60 cents off of it. So if they put out, whatever, 10 of them, they're making $6, make 20, they make 12, whatever. You get the idea. So but frankly, think about it. Think back to what you read. This was supposed to be a survey about video games. And here we are talking about winning prepaid Visa gift cards. It's not as advertised. There's something fishy going on here. And if you were to put your email address in, after you put your email address, you get stuck in this dual loop of surveys and sign up for or not real surveys, like a survey. I was thinking surveys like, do you like Coke or Pepsi better? Do you like McDonald's or Burger King better? All this, frankly, it's crap. And it gets you in this do loop where you're continually, you keep thinking, oh, the next one will be my code. The next one will be my code, but it's never your code. So when I go back and they say put NA in, if you gave up and you put NA in and you submitted it, are they going to approve it or reject it? Are they going to pay you the 10 cents or not? Are they just going to take their first, put up a bunch of hits, take the first so many profits they can, and then not pay out, just reject them and not pay it out? I don't know. I really don't know. And nothing against this particular requester, but this, I can confidently say, is not what it appears to be. It's not a survey about video games. It's just simply not. It is a way to get email addresses, and that's another reason why setting up an MTurk specific email address may be a good idea if you want to dig into these type of things a little further and see for yourself and validate what I'm saying, which I wouldn't be offended if you did. That way you could have those kind of burner emails, or there's actually websites out there that are generating burner emails for you that only last a certain amount of time. Certainly do that. But don't put your personal email address in there just to be spammed by a company that thinks you're a legitimate target audience. You can't blame them. They're assuming you're a legitimate target audience, that you wanted this, not that you were paid to sign up for it. So that's the real life example, and it's probably one of the more obvious ones. But as time goes on, I hope to highlight other ones so that people don't waste their time on these, because the worst thing that can happen is that you get a rejection for something like that, and it's just simply not. It's simply not fair when somebody's done what's requested of them and then have it rejected. And rejects hurt your ability to do other hits in terms of what your approval rating is. And I don't think these requesters know that, care about it, understand it. So I just don't want to see people get stuck in something like that. So again, if you come across these, if you're early in your turking career, please err on the side of caution. If you can take screenshots, please take screenshots. If you don't know how to take a screenshot, I can either put a video up to help you with that, or you can Google, how to do a screenshot if you're on Windows, if you're on a Mac, if you're on a Chromebook. I can certainly put something up if it helps people. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you would like. And but if you take a screenshot, or you just get the description and shoot me a comment, I can look into it and let you know whether it's legitimate or not, or what my suspicion is. But yeah, so that's I think in general terms of service violations and some specific ones. So if you could let me know in the comments if you've run into any of these, I'd really love to hear what variations are out there in the MTurk community. Definitely would love to hear from you. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you're thinking. I appreciate it. You're joining, and we'll be talking soon.